Hey there, everyone. My name is Patrick McGee. I'm a product manager at GemCetra for the Level product portfolio. And I have with me my colleague, Dennis, who is a product marketing specialist for us. So we're excited to have you here. Really appreciate you all taking the time and getting to learn a little bit more about our new product here. So I will give everyone a minute or two here to trickle in. I'll just go through kind of a few logistical items while we wait for that to happen. So, excuse me. So I'll go through the presentation. Intermixed within the presentation, there are a few polls. So certainly, we love the feedback during each of those poll systems. And then after that, throughout the broadcast, the mics will be muted, but there is a chat functionality. Feel free to put any questions in the chat, and we'll make sure to reserve some time at the end of this to answer those questions. So like I said, I'll give a minute here, and Dennis and I will get started. All right, well, thanks again, everyone, for joining. Like I said, my name is Pat McGee, product manager here for the Level portfolio, and I have with us Dennis, who is a product marketing specialist. Both of us have been involved in ULS and are very excited to talk to you about it here today. So I will get started. First, a little bit about GEMS itself. If I can get my slide going. So really, we deliver safety and productivity benefits to end users around the globe by providing OEMs with ability to sense and act on changes in liquid and gases. So we'll go through kind of this specific offering, and certainly feel free to ask any questions in the chat as we go through. GEMS is proud to provide support around the world. So manufacturing headquarters is in Plainville, Connecticut, just outside Hartford. We do have another manufacturing facility in Brighton, UK, south of London, and then another facility in Tianjin, China. So global presence here. Both Dennis and I are located in the States, but certainly know we have some members on the call who are joining us into their evening. So thank you for taking the time. So while you're here, I think, as I mentioned, excited to speak to you about the ULS-200. So it is really a new product for us that we're very excited about, and we'll go through kind of the details about it. But at a very high level, it is a point level switch designed for OEM applications. It's a compact sensor that's really rugged and reliable. That's kind of the taglines we're going for it. It's accurate, repeatable, and it's going to be allowed to work in both critical, rugged environments and precise applications, and we'll speak through some more of those as we go through. But really, again, that compact, reliable, and durable unit that's going to be versatile for different applications. What you're looking at here is kind of the sensor itself. I have one in front of me for reference, so a little larger on the screen there. But really a trouble-free output, so a 3-pin Deutsch connector there. Compact construction. It's an IP 6K, 9K for those rugged environments. And we have various time delay set points that we can apply to this switch. Really, I think why we're so excited about this unit, and in addition to kind of the previous points, is what you see here. So continued in our offering, and there's no plan for sunsetting if that comes up right away, but eventually the ULS will be a platform that kind of allows us to really standardize on some product. And what that can do is remove some of the challenges that we've seen with float sensors, a typical capacitive type sensor, electro-optic or ultrasonic. So really kind of a breakdown here on where these advantages are seen in the ULS-200, getting rid of those false trips, kind of having a longer term, more reliable and repeatable sensor. So it's going to be a convenient kind of connection point from different threads available, and it should be able to be used in a variety of applications where possibly you've been using these other technologies previously. We really feel that this is what's going to allow for more consistency in a better product long term. Beyond that, I'd kind of be curious to hear from you all what of that existing technology you are using or are familiar with. So I believe you should see in the poll now an option to answer this here. So give some time here to answer the poll. All right, well, thank you all for those that voted. I'm squinting here to see the poll, but looks like the majority, or almost majority, 48% are familiar with those float units. Good amount with capacitive and ultrasonic, and about 10% are other. I would love just for some feedback, if anyone doesn't mind putting what other is in the chat. That'd be helpful feedback for us. But I think looking at the float, we'll go through kind of the advantages of a solid state sensor, no moving parts. It's a request that's been asked of us through multiple years for many products, and it's just a continued evolution of what we want to offer as a business. So appreciate that feedback. Moving forward, I'm going to pass it over to Dennis here, who's going to go through kind of some more of the specifics around this product, and mainly how can we get it out to you quickly here. Go ahead, Dennis.
Yeah, thank you, Patrick. As I was introduced, my name is Dennis. I'm product marketing specialist with GEM Sensors. My background, though, is in application engineering and technical support. So I've been tasked with doing some of the little nuts and bolts here of the ULS-200 and take you through that. First thing is we're going to go through the part number configuration and how to configure online. I hope you're familiar with our website, gemsensors.com. Once you get there on the home page, you'll see a login or an e-catalog link. Either one of those will bring you to the screen you see in the lower left. In that lower left, it gives you a product selector. And that product selector has your level, your flow, your pressure products. It's not just the ULS-200, it's our full product offering, and you're able to configure from there. You also notice that there's other tabs there. So you can, if you have an account, then you can check your price and availability. You can view your past configurations, order status, and so on. In clicking the ULS-200, it'll take you to the configuration page. You see that on the right. You'll see that it's got simple drop list type menu choices, which makes it very simple for your product options that you're going to put in there. Okay, once you click the, once you make your choices, you'll see all those drop lists and you see you've made your choices. You can click the view specs and pricing. When you do that, the screen on the right, something similar to that will come up, which gives you all the technical specifications, your ordering information, complete part number, price, lead time. You also notice it gives you a brief dimensional drawing below. And then on the right, you see that it gives you options for printing those specifications, emailing them, contacting us directly, the data sheet for download, and your dimensional drawings for download as well. Now, how to configure. The different options that are available are material housing, the actuation condition, the thread size, the integral connector, the media type that you'll be sensing, and then time delays, both on increasing and decreasing if you choose. Okay, the first option being the material housing. We have two available, which is 316L stainless steel and brass. The brass and stainless steel both being corrosion resistant. You might pick a brass one because it's lighter weight and because it has a slightly less cost. Whereas your stainless steel is a stronger, harder material, and it has additional resistances, for instance, to chlorine and salt. There's also another a galvanic interface issue that may come up. Some metals do not mate well with other metals. So you may have to pick one over the other because of that. Next option that you're going to pick is the actuation condition. You want it either to be a wet signal or a dry signal. Let's say you're trying to operate a light bulb. Very simply, when the probe is wet, the light is on. If it's a dry signal, when the probe is dry, absence of liquid, that light will be on. Then if you're not familiar, sinking or sourcing is basically that's how it's wired in your circuit. There are terms used to describe how the load, what you're trying to power, where it is in relation to the sensor. A simple way to tell if you want sinking or sourcing, if you want to see the voltage and the transistor logic, that is the yes or no, the ones or zeros. If you want to see that on the output wire, then you want sourcing. If you don't want to see any voltage and you just want that yes or no logic on the output wire, you want sinking, because that voltage then sinks to ground, or in this case, at the negative leg of the DC power source. Okay, the next two I put together, you got, because they're the your connections, both at the process end, which is your thread size, and then at the electrical side, which is your integral connector in this case. We offer 1/4-inch NPT, 1/2-inch NPT, M12 metric, and G-quarter BSPP threads. We show them all here in those dimensional drawings. You notice on the right, the right two of them, that's got the M12 and the G-quarter. Those have a groove for an O-ring, and that O-ring is supplied and included with the sensor when sent. And then I've got a diagram of the 3-pin Deutsch connector on the right. Okay, next, and maybe one of the most important, is the media that you will be sensing. We have two different versions. We have the water-based version and what we call a hydrocarbon-based version. The water is any water-based media with a high dielectric constant. You're talking your waters, your coolants, antifreeze, washer fluid, most alcohols. Those are all of the water-based liquids that'll have your high dielectric constants. The hydrocarbon, we just called it hydrocarbon for simplicity, but it is any crude oils, vegetable oils, for instance, fuels, gasoline, butane, liquid butane. Those are all hydrocarbon or oil-based examples. The last options, if you so choose, you can add a time delay. Okay, the time delay is either on increasing, decreasing, or both. Purpose behind that is in mobile applications, you might have sloshing or turbulence, and you don't want too much what they call chattering or false signals. So you want to build in a time delay. That time delay is from between the time that the liquid is actually sensed or the absence of liquid is sensed and the signal output. So there's your built-in delay, kind of a built-in chill out period before it actually gives a signal. You could have the N3, 5, 10. There are others that you can request as a customer special, and then we could program those custom delays for you here, depending on quantity that you'd be ordering and so on. Want to run through the specifications. We talked about the media that could be sensed. We talked about the mounting options and the housing. There is a seal O-ring and it is a Buna O-ring. The probe tip materials are either PVDF, that's for the water-based, or PBT, which is for the hydrocarbon or oil-based liquids. The operating pressure, a very high pressure rating up to 300 PSI. The operating temperature, wide temperature range. We want this for outdoor applications. So we have it from -40 up to +257 Fahrenheit, which is 125 Celsius. Supply voltage to operate the sensor is 9 to 32 volt DC. Anywhere in that range will power the device. The current consumption, very low at 6 milliamp, that's without load. The output is solid state. That means no moving parts. It's all electronics. We already mentioned that it's got the sinking or sourcing output, the voltage range, and it has a 300 milliamp max output. Electrical termination currently at 3-pin Deutsch. You notice a little 2 asterisk M12. That is something that we're currently developing, that there's going to be an additional M12 electrical connector out soon. Time delays we talked about, and I also mentioned how those are from the sensor actually switching states to the signal being output from the device. The ingress protection Patrick mentioned earlier as IP up to IP67 and IP69K. The IP69K is for the sensor itself. The 67 portion of it is for the electrical connector, because we can't guarantee what type of connection that you have between the mating of the 3-pin Deutsch. Then the approval ratings that we currently have is CE and RoHS. I think that brings us to a poll next.
Yep.
Additional approvals, certifications, we get asked all the time. Is it UL approved? Is it explosion proof? We get asked from all of our products on approvals. And we'd like to know from you on this particular product, are there additional approvals or certifications that you would like to see? Okay, looks like explosion proof, that's 45%, and UL listed at 30%. We do have some CSA and SF, a very small percentage, and we do have some other. So again, if you wanted to use the chat in order to list those other certifications or approvals, that would be helpful. But explosion proof and UL being the front runners. Okay, next slide. What I wanted to do is show you the closer look at the dimensions of this product, showing that it is a very compact device. It's not going to take up a lot of room in your application where a small footprint is required. The ULS-200 satisfies that criteria. The overall length, OAL, is 3.21 inches, which is 81.5 millimeters. The probe itself is about an inch, less than or equal to about an inch, depending on which thread size you're using, which is like almost 25.5 millimeters. And then I also show the pinout once again on the 3-pin Deutsch, and a quick version of that, of how the operating principle in those diagrams at the bottom. Wanted to get into that operating principle just a little bit further so you know how the insides work, okay? The way that it functions is via an open collector output. An open collector works with DC power, and it toggles the current flow from the output signal wire to ground or to a negative leg, a lower voltage. The sensor signal, okay, in this case, the probe, okay, is the base leg. The positive DC power, which is also powering the load because this is a sinking configuration, that's the collector leg, and the emitter is the ground or negative leg. When the internal sensing signal is negative, and that diagram you see in the upper right, that means there's liquid absent. It prevents current from flowing to the emitter. Again, this is in a sinking configuration, a wet sinking configuration. Then, when the internal sensing signal is positive, liquid present, it allows the current to flow from the collector to the emitter, giving you your positive, yes, I see liquid signal. Now I'm going to pass it over to Patrick so he can go over some of the applications that we've focused on in developing and engineering this product.
Thanks, Dennis. Yeah, I think what Dennis covered and what makes this such an exciting product for us is the vast amount of applications that we view a fit here. So we spoke through a number of customers over the development process of this unit, And we really see it in a lot of rugged environments. So the ag space, construction, forestry, mining, plastic manufacturing, power generation, water, wastewater, emergency vehicles. So really the breadth of OHV and manufacturing. Giving you an idea on kind of the off-highway vehicle side of things, the bus, the tanks, and the OHV equipment, you'll see kind of the various areas that you're allowed to consolidate SKUs on this product. So within these large pieces of equipment, we view that the ULS-200 allows for multiple sensing points in the same piece of equipment. So taking a look at that, I think we really view this as a sensor for harsh environments. So the demanding applications, how can we build this to make sure that the temperature range is there, the shock and vibe is there? How can we provide the delays that make sure that, in moving vehicles, we have the ability to remove false trips and have the consistent, reliable range of outputs. So kind of a breakdown here, but in general, I think when you look at this unit, what we're hoping for is rugged and reliable is really, again, what we're seeing with the ULS-200. In addition, we looked at more of the precision environment. So medical device, chillers, semiconductor space, data center cooling applications, lab spaces, sterilizers. How can this be used there? We're seeing that it offers the same compact design needed. The probe tip materials offer a number of media compatibilities for those different industries, covers the temperature range that would be required, as well as the key essential aspect of accuracy that's required in kind of these precision sensing environments. So with that, I wanted to come to a poll here. So which application do you all find most applicable for this sensor? That would be great. Thank you. Thanks, everyone, for taking the poll. I think what's exciting here is what we were hoping for, kind of a wide range of applications seen by you all. So certainly a front runner in water, wastewater, followed by OHV, HVAC, and other. I'll echo the other comment. If you see a really specific application for this, we'd love to hear more about it. So that'd be great. But really what you're seeing here is what we believe this sensor offers, is kind of this wide array of fits for various applications. So with that, I'll give the third word in my tagline of this sensor, which is rugged, reliable, and affordable. We've done a lot of market looks at where this stands, and we feel that there's really a nice fit for all these applications with what we can do on this sensor from a price perspective. So you'll see kind of list pricing available for the stainless steel version. The one I have right in front of me would be $152, and for brass, that's $140. With that, you'd see kind of the volume breaks that are allowed and available right now with kind of the larger quantities. Certainly over 500, we'd welcome further conversation on what could be done there if we can standardize on the configuration. So I think an exciting point there, and I think with that, I'll jump into the next slide, which is another poll. But with that, we're already excited about how the ULS can truly be a platform product for us. And with that, I'd love the feedback from the group and audience here on what is the feature that you'd be most excited to see in a ULS-300. So if you don't mind, fill that out, and we'll leave significant time here for some questions. Great. Thank you all for your responses here. So field configurable and non-contact continuous are the two front runners. Excited to say those are both items we're planning on. In fact, all of these are what we view as part of the ULS platform. So the field configurable aspect through IO-Link and the M12 connector are already in process by our team, as well as how could we use this in a plastic body to maybe even go to a lower price point. The non-contact point level is something we're looking at as the ULS-2X, also in development right now, finishing up some prototypes to get some additional customer feedback. So if you have interest in that one, I'd love to speak to you further. And then similarly, the non-contact continuous, we just actually presented kind of an initial plan for that product to our leadership team to slot out when we can move that into development. So excited that you all have interest in kind of all of those different offerings, and something that we certainly look forward to providing here as we grow the ULS platform. Again, there's a group of others there certainly would be interested if anything we're not considering hits that list. So let us know. And with that, I just want to say, thank you for the time. Certainly reach out to us, be it Dennis or I directly. We can rope you in with the appropriate account owner. Come to our website, take a look at the product there, and certainly reach out with additional questions. But on that note, I will stop sharing my screen here, and bear with me. I will pull up the questions, and it looks like we have a few, so feel free to keep those coming in. But if I look at the top here, is this a vibrating tuning fork technology? And I think Dennis answered that, but Dennis, I don't know if you want to read your answer or provide a little more context there, but I think that would be helpful.
Sure. It's a capacitive sensor, and those sensors do exist. The legacy version of a capacitive sensor is primarily designed and engineered for water-based liquids only. In order to sense your oil-based or hydrocarbon-based, it usually requires a cage. You may have seen capacitive sensors with a brass cage around the sensor probe. The reason for that is because it requires that as a reference point, so that, as an external reference point that's required for that technology. The ULS-200, however, has advanced sensing technology that has an internal reference channel, minimizes the effects of environmental changes, and overcomes those limitations. For instance, with that cage, you can imagine a sensor probe and then a very tight cage around the outside of it. It could be susceptible to buildup. Your thicker, more viscous liquids, for instance, could build up in there and give false signals. So we see the ULS-200 as mitigating or eliminating those limitations. So that is the bread and butter behind the technology of the ULS-200. And how about buildup? There's a second question. I'll answer that here verbally as well. Buildup prevention, you've got the PVDF as well as the PBT sensing probe materials. PVDF is used, for instance, in plastic piping as an internal coating. And the reason for that is because it has chemical resistance and high temperature thresholds, but also liquids do not stick to it, even the higher viscous liquids. So the purpose behind that technology, behind that material, I should say, is that the media will slide off more easily. The polybutylene, the PBT, also used in a lot of automotive components, household items as well. It is also used in fishing line, for instance. Some fishing line has polybutylene material. Again, very resistant to coating and buildup because of its smooth surface. And so that's why these are best for buildup. Now, if you're talking about the sensing technology, if buildup, for instance, were to cause false signals, let's say you've got a little bit of lime deposit on it or a little bit of rust or something. If it's just a thin layer of it, it's not going to affect the sensor because the capacitive sensor has a sensing field, and it actually emits a couple millimeters away from the surface of the probe. So anything that just slightly coats it is not going to cause false triggers.
Great. Dennis, I don't know if you want to just finish that with will condensation affect the sensor? I don't know if you kind of just want to carry that answer over or provide any more detail on that.
Condensation. On a water-based unit, if you buy a water-based unit and it has any kind of condensation on it, again, it would have to be fairly thick on the probe material for it to do a false signal. I don't see that as happening. Got more questions here.
Yeah, I'll just add another comment on that. I think condensation or buildup, there is also for certain applications the ability for us to fine tune kind of this reference point and the really kind of proprietary math we have on this unit behind it to either increase or decrease sensitivity accordingly. So I think that's something we're excited about is the flexibility we'd have there for truly unique applications where this standard sensor doesn't work. But we're finding great success over all areas we've tested with this unit. There was also a question on the M12 electrical connector. That is a plan on the roadmap. We're hoping to have that in development and part of really the next generation with the ULS-200, also with IO link. In terms of when it will be available, I think the goal would be to be towards middle to end of next year. We actually have a mapping exercise Dennis and I will be involved in, I think in 2 weeks, that should put out kind of the timeline for that. And we'd be happy to share kind of updates after we work as a full team. So more to come. In terms of marine type approvals, I do not have anything currently in the roadmap. That said, we are open to feedback and kind of understanding of what would be required. So we can reach out separately on that, but I unfortunately don't have much more to share on that front.
No, other than Patrick, we do actually have a division that deals with marine exclusively. We do sell a lot into that market. And so, you know, obviously if you have applications and questions, bring them on and we'd be happy to answer them.
Great. One of the questions here is more about plastic machine applications. I think what we'd see is more in kind of the injection molding world. So be it different pigments or kind of inputs of media for that process, they would have kind of the point level switches for either emergency shutoff or kind of the overall functionality of on off for certain additives is where we'd see the application there.
Also, there's Patrick, in plastics, there's something called a temperature control unit, a TCU. Temperature control units are normally something that's on wheels and it's mobile, and they're usually operated with vacuum, oil-based, or water-based for temperature control. And those obviously will have a basin, you know, with the liquid present there. So you would find that point level sensors would be in that application as well.
Great. And then what about, Dennis, I don't know if you want to handle this next one. Hydraulic sensor on plastic powder granules.
Yeah, as far as solids, the answer is maybe. It does depend. If it's very tightly packed, then probably. Again, that's something that you'd have to test. If there's too much air in between the granules, for instance, if you have corn in a corn silo, probably not going to work. You have too much air in there, and that dielectric constant then will drop too low for anything to be sensitive enough to sense it. But however, if you've got tightly packed, you know, powders, could be. I would ask that you test that out, get a sample, because that is a possibility that they would be just fine. Again, depending on the size of the granules. We have a question on lead time right now, 20 days, right, Patrick?
Yeah, 20 days is the official lead time. I think what I'd tell you on that front is certainly 2 options right now. One, we have a number of samples available that we'd like to get you using this product. So certainly it's only in certain configurations, but we can get that out in a week. And if you do need a different configuration, I'd ask that you work with the account owner to see if there's any expediting options. I believe that we could push things through if need be, but standard lead time is that 20 days right now. And effect of the temperature on the set point.
Well, for the time delay, it's really not going to affect anything because that set point is really just the time between the liquid being detected by the probe and by the electronics and that signal going out. That's your time delay. So that's not going to be affected by temperature. Now, will dielectric constant change based on temperature? Yes, it does. Like water at room level, or at room temperature, I should say, is going to be about, 80 or 90 dielectric constant. That does go down as temperature goes up. So no matter what your media type is, oil-based, hydrocarbon, water-based, pay attention to the temperature. That is going to affect the dielectric constant. You're going to have to do your own math. We don't have any kind of chemical engineers here. So do your own math, check it out online, get your experts to check that out for you, and always get a sample and test it in as close to your application as you can so you know for sure that this would work.
Great. I don't know if we hit this one, Dennis, but I think there was a question on installing any orientation. So I don't know if you want to touch on that, or I can.
I do. The answer is yes. Absolutely any orientation. Don't thread them in backwards, but other than that, you can put them upside down. You can put them, horizontal, vertical, or any combination. The only caveat to that, the only thing that we've got to do as a warning is, for instance, if you have any kind of cavity that it's in, like in an adapter, for instance, the rule of thumb is that you want at least a 1/2 inch of clearance on every side of the sensor probe. Okay, so if it's horizontal and you have it in an adapter, then you're going to want to make sure that there's a 1/2 inch of clearance. And that would go for actually any orientation. Now imagine if it's completely from the bottom of the tank. If it's from the bottom of the tank and you also have an adapter, that adapter is going to pool in there. So you have to make sure that that is cleared from the probe. So there are some warnings, some things you have to watch out for. But if it's just straight into the tank, no adapter, any orientation would be fine.
Great. I think that's all I see there. Happy to hang on for a couple more minutes if there are any final questions, but I really appreciate everyone's time. Truly, I know that everyone's got busy schedules, and right after lunch for some, or at the end of the day for others, is it's always appreciated for the time. But really excited to get these sensors in your hands. Continue to be here to answer any questions and support as needed. And like we mentioned, there are some free samples available. We will follow up with an email that can take you to that link. Otherwise, look forward to speaking to you all again soon regarding just the ULS platform as a whole as we continue to grow and develop this offering.
Patrick, do you want to share that last slide?
Yes, I do.
Good. Go ahead and hit on that really quick on why. Yep.
This one.
That's the one.
All right. I got ahead of myself on questions. So here you go. For a limited time, we'd like to offer this free sample. You'll see kind of the available configurations that are there. And again, if you don't see the configuration that you really need for your testing, certainly let us know. We'd be happy to work with you on this because we want to make sure there's a level of comfort as we roll out this product. So I'll leave that up here and keep an eye out for any other questions. But thank you all again for the time. Truly appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks all.
Look forward to speaking to you all soon. Thank you, Dennis.